Hi, I want to talk to you briefly about a topic that's mentioned in the book of Daniel and also the Gospels. That's the Abomination of Desolation, and this is my second introduction to the book of Daniel. Jesus had a very difficult discussion with the religious elite in Matthew chapter 24, and he pronounced judgment on them, what they would face in the future because of their conduct and because of their arrogance. Well, Jesus and his crew left the temple. The disciples, as they left, they commented on the temple structures and how beautiful they were. And Jesus said, hey, there's going to come a time when this place will be dismantled stone by stone. There'll be nothing here except a pile of stones. And the disciples asked him, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? That question that they asked is actually 3 points, and those points comprise the outline for the Olivet Discourse. When will this place be dismantled stone by stone? When is the time of your coming and that time of the end? Now, in verses 4 to 12, Jesus lets them know that things are going to get pretty bad. It's going to be expensive to be a Christian. But in verse 15, that's when things go from bad to really, really, really bad. And Jesus said in verse 15, when you see the abomination of desolation, which was spoken of through Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place, and then Matthew puts parentheses there, let the reader understand. Jesus goes on, then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. And Jesus said, hey, if you've been working out in the field and you forgot your coat, do not go back and get it. You need to get out and vacate Judea very, very quickly, and things will become incredibly difficult for the Jew after verse 15. And Jesus says in Matthew chapter 24, when you see that abomination that Daniel spoke of, get out quickly. Well, Jesus is referring to a historical event that happened a couple hundred years earlier. A guy by the name of Antiochus Epiphanes, a very, very wicked man. He was a descendant of one of the generals of Alexander the Great. This guy, scholars think, is a prefigure of the Antichrist. He was a very, very wicked man. Antiochus Epiphanes was humiliated by a display of power from Rome that stopped him from entering Egypt. So he turned his attention to the Jew. And sometimes really bad people do this. When they are humiliated by someone stronger, they will turn to someone weaker. And they will exercise power and abuse over that person so they themselves can feel stronger. And this is what Antiochus Epiphanes did. He took his seat in the temple of God, displayed himself as being God, placed an abomination in the temple, and there he, as someone who claimed to be God, he attempted to bring together faiths from the east and faiths from the west. So if he had an Eastern audience, he would pretend to be Baal. If he had a Western audience, he would claim to be Zeus. And this guy murdered and tortured many, many Jews. This guy is thought to be a prefigure of the Antichrist, a preview of coming attractions. But what's significant for our study is Jesus refers to a past event as if it is going to reoccur in the future. He refers to that which has been as that which is to come. And when the Antichrist comes, it's going to be Antiochus Epiphanes on steroids. During the first half of the tribulation period, we expect that the Antichrist is out pitching his desire for a new world order, a one world type of a government. God also has two very, very powerful witnesses down here during the first half of the tribulation period, and they are warning, probably saying things like, hey, you do not want to go along with this guy, this Antichrist. And these witnesses are very, very powerful. They're able to do some tremendous miracles like Moses and Elijah could do back in the Old Testament. Well, during these first 3.5 years, apparently somebody doesn't like the Antichrist. They don't want his desire. So he is killed. Remember that thing about the beast that had the wound of the sword and has come to life? The Antichrist will have a resurrection. And then he will kill those two witnesses that God had down here during those first 3.5 years. And the Antichrist will display tremendous power. He is followed by a third member of the evil trinity called the false prophet. And the false prophet also has great signs and wonders, and he channels all honor and glory to the Antichrist. The false prophet will command the sons of men. He will say, hey, you guys need to make an image to this Antichrist because the Antichrist is so great. And men will fashion an image to honor the Antichrist. Well, the false prophet is capable of giving that image, that abomination, if you would. He is capable of giving that thing breath and life and speech. Can you imagine that? That law of life and death, the creation of life, that thing that God, only God does, that law, that line has been crossed by this abomination and giving it life. And at this point, this is the midpoint of the tribulation. This is the point that Jesus is speaking about here when he warns, hey, when you see that abomination of desolation, you need to get out of there very, very quickly. At this midpoint of the tribulation, the Antichrist will take his seat in the temple of God, displaying himself as being God. And I certainly would assume that that abomination will be there with him. And this is the point where Jesus said you need to get out very, very quickly. Now, because the life of Antiochus Epiphanes is a prefigure of the Antichrist, I would expect the Antichrist to bring together faiths from the east and faiths from the west. He will bring together the Muslim faith. He will bring together in his appeal divination, soothsaying, sorcery, and enchantments. I've got friends down in Uganda, way down there, and they tell me that Baal is worshipped even in Uganda. So Baal has made his way from Babylon to Jerusalem and Israel, all the way down into Africa. So I would expect an appeal to those who worship Baal to be part of his one world system of worship. He'll also reach out to faiths in the West. I suspect a watered down form of Christianity will be very, very eager to align itself with the Antichrist when they see the signs and the wonders that he can do. I wanted to put this out to you because in the New Testament age, we have a tendency sometimes to think that we only want to read the New Testament. We don't want to have anything to do with the Old Testament. We're better than that. That's an old, outdated thing, and we don't need that anymore. But I don't think that's very smart. Jesus said, until heaven and earth pass away, not the smallest letter or stroke will pass away from the law till all is accomplished. So I take that to mean if I can look through the pages of the Old Testament and I see some prophecies that are unfulfilled, that means that the Old Testament is still the living, active, and sharper than a two-edged sword Word of God. And these books, Daniel, Zechariah, Isaiah, Ezekiel, these books contain clues of how the end times will be coming together, piecing together for that particular generation. And these books, especially the book of Daniel, help us to understand and unlock the book of Revelation. So please, don't throw away your Old Testament quite yet, okay? We will talk to you very soon.